Slumpbuster, episode 52, Slumpbuster on Ice on 3. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Slumpbuster. Quiet on the set. Make sure my mic is on. Eric, Dre, and Juju Dog diving towards the pylon. Go for two, so damn rude. Recognize authority. Spitting tips for fantasy. No way you're outscoring me. Bold predictions with conviction every single day. Sports addiction, no restriction. Kicking game like Pele. He's the greatest. What's the basis? Pick an athlete. Let's debate this game. Outrageous trading places. Sudden death. Take 10 paces. Turn and shoot. Boys the truth. Mamba mentality. Future greats take their place. Dreams become reality. Low and outside, knocked it out the park. Your boy discovered fire like a rock with a spark. Refs acting like Neanderthals. Phantom flags, nothing calls. Heartbreak losses, tragic falls. Every week discuss it all. Settle in, listen up. Free your time like Andrew Luck. Show's about to start. I suggest you buckle up.
Slumpbuster on
Ice.
Alrighty, guys, welcome in Slumpbuster, episode 52, ready to go. We have a nice hockey roundtable, obviously here at the Slumpbuster, between myself, MMA Dre, Eris, Fancy Aristotle. Hockey, bit of a blind spot for us. That is why I brought in from all parts of the country, and even abroad, not even our country, 3 fantastic hockey experts. Let's break down the list of who we got on this show. So first off, our first ever repeat guest on the Slumpbuster, Miss Annie O'Donnell, the best host from coast to coast, calling it in from New York. How are you doing, Annie? Are you okay? Are you okay, Annie?
I'm bored. Good Lord.
Have you heard that joke before?
Oh, I hear it all the time. In the last episode we did, he used that song for promo, and right when I opened the Instagram notification, I was like, God damn it, Choo-Choo. But I'm doing all right. Glad to be here and honored to be the first returning guest. I'm blushing over here. Good Lord.
Oh, you know, like your last appearance was so fantastic. We just knew, come on, we got to get her back on. And here you are on the other side of episode 50. So welcome back, Annie. Our next guest. So we've had his show on our show before, but this is his first appearance, Mr. Giovanni Siciliano. He's done some power rankings for our website. He's done some outstanding content. And honestly, FaceOff Hockey, it has been a godsend for me in terms of actually learning about the sport a little bit over the last couple months. So welcome on, Giovanni.
Oh, thanks, Juju, for having me. Annie and Elena, hello. I'll hope to represent me and myself and my partners of FaceOff Hockey podcast in the Great White North up here in Canada as best as I can. I can't make any promises that I won't lose my mind over the Toronto Maple Leafs, but maybe we can get into that a little bit later. But yeah, happy to be here.
Well, just know, Giovanni, if you do happen to lose our little NHL trivia later on, you are not only letting down your show, yourself, but you're letting down your entire country. So that's a lot of responsibility I'm putting on you right now. But I just want you letting you know that is what's at stake today.
It's funny you bring that up because I was telling the boys, we just recorded our episode for this week like about an hour ago, and I was saying there's some Jeopardy, and I honestly feel the pressure because I feel like just where I'm from, I have to win.
The birthplace of hockey as we know it, the Great White North. And then for our last guest, a proud resident of the ATX, similar to myself, the 512. She is the creator of one of the best hockey blogs on the internet today. Alana Lipham, proudly representing her Penguins today.
Thank you. Yes, live in the 512, but support the 412.
Hey,
That's catchy.
that works perfectly.
That's a good tattoo. Good bumper sticker.
Honestly, you probably should create that. I would put that on a slogan somewhere. Maybe even your cover. I don't know.
Oh, good idea. But thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited. Juju, I wish we were recording together, but I guess once this whole pandemic is over, we can podcast in the same room.
That is a fair and astute observation. But then again, too, I'm on a studio apartment budget here, so not a ton of room in this podcast studio at the moment. Might be a little cramped.
You can come over to my house. It's fine. I live in Pflugerville, so a little bit more room outside of the city limits.
I'm a podcaster on a budget, so, you know, that's my thing right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
All righty. Well, I think it's time that we kind of get into some headlines of some stuff we're going to talk about today. So obviously the NHL has its return plan in place, which I will give a huge credit to these guys for being able to do it because the MLB can't get their shit together. The NBA, they finally got it together, but we're still about 2 months off there. And then the NFL is just sitting pretty, not even having to worry about any of this. That's kind of like the current state of sports, and the NHL put this together as of a couple weeks ago. So that's the main thing we're going to talk about on the show. Another thing that came up, so Max Kellerman, host of First Take, put it out there, a little argument. Is hockey a top 4 sport in America? I personally think it's a top 4 sport, but we'll get into that. I'll let you guys just, rip on poor old Max there for a little bit. And then it goes out the show, as I mentioned, NHL trivia. We're going to test these hockey experts' knowledge. So we're going to be breaking down some major categories, such as their favorite teams, NHL trivia as a whole. And since I am so ignorant that I can't even spell Wayne Gretzky right, we're going to do some Wayne Gretzky trivia in there as well. Again, just letting down the Slumpbuster here. Damn typos. I got it right at some points in that little mix there, too. So just, don't worry, guys. I redeemed
It's the thought that counts. It's the thought
exactly.
that counts.
You try. At least you know who he is. Some people don't even know that.
It's a start.
Max Kellerman might be one of those guys.
Might be one of those guys.
Probably the only one he knows, honestly.
Yeah.
The show's just gone downhill since Skip left, but, that's another argument for another day.
Whoa,
right.
whoa. Don't disrespect my man Stephen A like
Skip,
that,
skip,
okay?
skip,
He is
skip,
carrying
skip.
the show on his back.
I'm just saying, with those two's dynamic, I don't know if y'all are Game of Zones fans. They had a little, tribute to those two. It was memorable. It's hard to explain to the younger generation that those two actually had a show together at one point, but it's the generation we grew up in. All right, let's talk about this NHL return plan here. So it's very complicated. As of today, we finally learned that we're going to be in phase 2. That involves teams returning to their facilities. There's still a couple teams that still haven't had that privilege, and that's similar to other sports too. As these sports start to reopen, that some are still in cities that have slightly more regulations on whether they're allowed to actually congregate together. Overall, the regular season is done with. No more regular season. We're just going straight into a 24-team playoff. That should happen right around the end of June at the earliest from all estimates. Once we get into that, they're going to select 2 hub cities. That list includes Chicago, Columbus, Dallas, Edmonton, Las Vegas, Nevada, LA, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Pittsburgh, Toronto, or Vancouver as possible locations where they can have these teams. 12 teams from each of these conferences are going to get the opportunity to play in it. And then from there, it kind of gets a little complicated, so stick with me here, guys. Round robin, the top 4 teams from the first round are going to be seeded together. Then we have qualifying rounds of the remaining 8 teams from each conference. First 2 rounds are bracketed and seeded from that. And then we get into best of 7 series when it comes to the conference finals and Stanley Cup. In there, you also have stuff like the draft lottery as well, kind of sprinkled in. That's kind of a little bit of a complicated mess as well as I was reading through that. But overall, are you guys satisfied with this relaunch plan starting any, mini, miny? Elena.
Hi. Well, I will say this, and I might be called out for this. A few weeks ago, if you had asked me if I was in favor of it, I would have said no. I was definitely in the camp of we just need to cancel everything. And this was probably end of May when I said this, just it had been so long. And I very much am really big into having a complete season next season, because it's the season before an expansion draft. And I think that's really important for teams to be reviewing their players, looking at other players. Just expansion drafts, as we know from the Vegas draft, are really important, and things can go wrong and they can do really well. So I was really putting importance on next season and the expansion draft and things like that. But honestly, I just need hockey back on my timeline. So I'm kind of in favor of it again. You explained it really well, Juju. I still really don't understand what's going on. All I know is Pittsburgh is playing Montreal first, and I have no issue with that, but that's really all I understand. The hub cities, I was a little confused about as well. I was thinking if they're going to do hub cities, they're going to choose places where it's just the hockey team in the arena. And I want to say half of that list shares with an NBA team at least. But I was talking with someone about that a few weekends ago, and they mentioned they're probably looking for a place that has a lot of really great practice ice as well. And just knowing the Dallas area really well, they have 2 really great practice arenas that the other teams can use when they're not playing games. So I'm kind of changing my tune on how I felt, but end of the day, it's a headache, and I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll jump in here now. Kind of the same as you, Elena. If you asked me months ago, I've said it multiple times on our show, end it now. It's a wash. People are going to be mad. No one's going to be happy either way. You're going to give an asterisk out for the Stanley Cup champion, all that nonsense. But now I've honestly changed my tune. If they can make it happen safely, if they can keep everyone safe, all that, before I continue, the draft is kind of a mess because they want to do it before the season even ends. And there's a whole bunch of odds and formats that have to come into play depending on who finishes where, who gets picked out and where. But yeah, if they can make it happen in a safe manner, I want to see hockey back. I know we had talked, people are saying, oh, well, whoever wins the cup, there's going to be an asterisk beside it. I don't think the Chicago Blackhawks of 2013 have an asterisk beside theirs. And they only played 48 games that season. This season, majority, they've played 70. Usually in a regular season, you need 16 wins to win the Stanley Cup. This year, you will need 19. So technically, it is a little bit harder. So yeah, Elena, you had brought up Pittsburgh, and I know from us up here in Canada, a lot of people have been talking about the Montreal Canadiens, and for some reason they think Carey Price is going to stand on his head all of a sudden, all over again. And yeah, I can see why you're frustrated about that, because that I don't really understand.
I don't either. It's not going to happen. This is not 2014, 2015 Carey Price. This is 2020 Carey Price. And
exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's the expression, you got to play the games. So we'll see what happens, but I don't think Montreal is really going anywhere. But yeah, I want to see it happen. The hub cities it's an interesting topic. In the US, I mean, the ones I've heard of that are looking at the main ones would be Vegas and Columbus. Up here in Canada, Toronto, I mean, people like to call it the hockey mecca, the capital. The NHL offices are here, along with New York. The Hockey Hall of Fame, there is about 5 or 6 NHL ready to go rinks within 15 kilometer. I'm not sure what that is in miles for you guys. That radius. So everything would be close, but the Ontario government here in Canada, they're kind of pushing back on it. Out in Alberta, where Edmonton is, BC, or Vancouver, they're a little more lenient. There's less cases of COVID. So they're opening up to that. But yeah, I want to see hockey. I mean, I don't get the asterisk nonsense because, like I just mentioned, 2013 had less games. Chicago, they had to have 3 cups for that dynasty. So I guess that counts, right? Yeah, I want to see it happen. It's going to be fun. It'll be interesting to see the reseedings and how they go through every round they announced last week. It's going to be interesting. I mean, at this point, nothing is normal anymore. So let's get out there. Let's play.
Annie, let me get you in here. In terms of the draft lottery taking place before the season's actually complete, do you have some major thoughts on that? Because I know, like I said, that's caused a lot of confusion in terms of, what we're doing moving forward with this. That's not been seen in many sports at all.
Nah, and to be honest, I've been looking forward to the draft lottery since December because that's about when the Ducks season ended. So,
I was about to ask, what's your team doing when the season starts back, Annie? But you already said it.
I chirped myself there. I'm all about that self-burn life. See, that's so many people, I lived in Pittsburgh for 4 years, and people chirp me all the time, every time the Ducks miss the playoffs. And I'm just like, I prepared for this. I'm usually pretty good about knowing when my team's going to make the playoffs or make a good run into it. And it's all about preparation and not getting disappointed. But regardless, as far as the draft goes, I was actually asked on my show, a lot of people that listen asked, they're like, can you break this down? Because I don't understand it. So I literally sat down and wrote down everything. And it took a while for me to kind of catch on to it, which I think is a big misstep on the NHL's part, because should they be the first team to come back and play, this is a huge opportunity for them to reach a whole new set of fans that have not seen sports being played for months. And I just feel like this draft phase 1, phase 2 whole deal is just confusing, and it's going to turn people off to it. Honestly, I feel like the easiest way to do it would be to do the draft lottery after the play-in round, so you know how everyone's going to be seated, so you don't have to do the phase 1, phase 2 whole ordeal. But I get it. You're not having revenue from fans, so you get 2 broadcast dates. I get it. But yeah, we'll see how it goes as far as the draft. You got Ottawa with those 2 picks, so I imagine they're going to end up with at least one of the top 3 picks. Hopefully, if not, I'd be pissed if I was a Senators fan.
Yeah, and speaking with the draft, I mean, when I initially heard they still wanted to do it before the season, I was like, okay, well, how do conditions on trades from during the season work? I mean, there's always those conditions you see. We'll give you a 2nd round pick if you make it to the conference finals. We'll give you a 3rd If you don't, if the guy re-signs, blah, 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 that's kind of all out of whack. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they kind of cope and work around that.
Well, I think it is a huge advantage to the NHL, just the fact that they're getting out there. They're getting out there before the other major sports as well.
Yeah, Max Kellerman.
Pretty much. I mean, because if you look at what happened with the UFC really took advantage of this. Like, more eyeballs were on them, more attention than they've ever seen in the years past. And the NHL, if you do have questions about their viability in America, this is the time to strike. Just get as many eyeballs, as many of the new fans looking at it as possible. So I do appreciate that Gary Bettman and all of them decided to just take that step, take that risk to get them out there. And in terms of safety, because you guys did mention it in terms of hockey, I think that when you consider the sport, it does seem like low contact relative to the fact that there will be occasionally the scrum from time to time. But these guys are all wearing, for the most part, face shields and everything. So I feel as though safety-wise, they should be better off than most sports relative to others. Like basketball, obviously you're touching each other in gym shorts half the time. So with that said, where are you guys leaning as far as who's the favorite? Who's taking home the cup this year? Because we did some Instagram polls when we didn't know what the season was going to be. And the Slumpbuster listeners, the viewers on our Insta said Stanley Cup Finals rematch. It will be the St. Louis Blues taking out the Bruins in the finals. Do you think we're going to have repeat champions, or is the Slumpbuster audience, in the wrong on that one?
Well, I'm going to jump in first. I would love nothing more than to see the Bruins get their ass kicked again, being a Leaf fan, and I hope we don't run into them. But the NHL is known for their parity. Every team is so competitive. Gary Bettman loves the parity. He loves tight races towards the end of the season. He wants the rivalries. He wants all that nonsense. Now with the season being on pause for 2-3 months, it is the biggest crapshoot I have ever seen in my lifetime. I mean, you could say Boston is a favorite because of the President's Trophy. They got Pasternak, they got Bergeron, Marchand. You could say St. Louis because they're still a tough team again, but it's like people forgot about Tampa Bay's. They're on track for redemption. People forget about Pittsburgh. I mean, Crosby, Malkin, Gensel will be healthy. You got Murray. It's not like they haven't done it before. Elena is cheering them on as I'm talking. There's also Washington. There's also Colorado. The Philadelphia Flyers were surprising me this season. They were on a tear before this all went down. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, it's a complete crapshoot.
I will jump in. I was making a lot of faces during that. I think everyone was very amused by that. I joked with someone and said it's going to be a Chicago-Montreal final just because why not? I differ a little. I did want Boston to win last year. I really go by my opinions on hockey teams, really go by my interactions with their fan base. And during the second round, I had some not great interactions with St. Louis people when they were in Dallas. Just more, I don't know, that's a story for another day, but just kind of really turned me off of St. Louis. And so I was kind of pulling for the Bruins if I had to choose someone. I'm glad they got their President's Trophy. They deserve it. When was the last time a President's Trophy winner won the cup?
Real. It's a curse.
Yeah. So I don't see them winning. I do see them doing well. They didn't really make a lot of roster changes when they went from the finals to this season. So they have shown that they can do a lot with their current roster. Of course, I want to say the Penguins. They come back all the time. And there's one thing I always see around playoff time is someone says, don't ever underestimate Sidney Crosby. And that's the truth. I really don't know. I haven't thought too much about it. I kind of pull for Vegas. They are a really great team, and I think they could do a lot. So I'm going to say Vegas. I'm going to go with that one.
It pains me talking about the playoffs, knowing your team doesn't have a chance. But I'm sure both of you guys can attest that the Stanley Cup playoffs, you're just anxiety, stress, everything is on level 10. So I'm very happy I get to sit back and enjoy it once again. But I don't know, thinking about this, for one, you bring up the President's Trophy, and if I'm the Bruins, I'm pissed that I have to fight for my number one seed in a round-robin tournament. Why award the President's Trophy if I'm not going to get first overall? What's the point? Obviously, like you said, when was the last time a President's Trophy winner won the cup? Never. So what's the perk to it? You just get another trophy, whatever. But as far as, teams that I'm just kind of – it's like you said, the playoff format is going to be so different, so it's so hard to pick as far as a favorite goes. But I got to think of teams that have just been really good on the road, because for the most, there's not a very good chance that you're going to be playing in your hub city. First thing that comes to mind is, for one, the Rangers went 4-0 against the Carolina Hurricanes this year, and the Hurricanes are the higher seed. So they also they went on a streak of 10 road wins in a row? Was it 9? I can't remember. But
Something
they're
like
definitely
that, yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely a team that I would see being a dark horse. And the Flyers also had an awesome away game streak. I know Elena's cringing as I say that, but
no, I was thinking of that, how they had a really great win streak and then the Penguins beat them and killed their win streak. But I think of everything in relation to Pittsburgh. But I didn't even think of the New York team. So you have a good point.
The Capitals too are another team. I love watching them. I think they're such an exciting team. I'm a big homer for Ovi, and I'm disappointed that he did not get another 50-goal season under his belt. I think it would have been his 9th. So that's disappointing, but he still ends the season with the Rocket Richard. In the West, I love Vegas. I'm going to piggyback off of Elena. I love playoff Marc-Andre Fleury. We've seen him do such amazing things in the postseason. I get playoffs and postseason. I throw them around, even though
that's okay.
The sports are different, but whatever. I would never count them out. I also know that the Ducks have played them multiple times in the Pacific Division, and they're dangerous. They're always a dangerous team that you have to play your best hockey against. So I don't think I would agree with Blues-Boston rematch, not only because rematches I'm kind of like, who cares? I'll get someone else in. But Elena did a whole What the Hell Wednesday video on this, and she was talking about why the season should be canceled. And she mentioned, she was like, wait, if you win, there's no parade, there's no celebration. And it got me thinking, where I really hope a team that wins it this year doesn't win it for the first time or for the first time in a long time, because you can't celebrate it properly. I imagine there's not going to be huge champagne showers in the locker room where everyone's taking
they're not going to get to drink out of the cup.
Exactly.
That breaks my heart.
No parade, no proper celebration for it. Maybe the one day with the cup will be different. I don't know, but that's just kind of my 2 cents on that. I hope it's a team that's like, all right, what's another one?
Sorry, Juju. I never gave my pick because both you guys said Vegas. I'm going to piggyback off my co-host, Mikey, from FaceOff, and he's got the Colorado Avalanche as his winner this year. And I do kind of agree with him. I think they got a lot of young guys. So I think with all this time off, they'll be able to bounce back and get into shape quicker than most. That's kind of selfishly why I kind of want to see my Toronto Maple Leafs do really well. And Annie, you brought up the point about a team that hasn't won in a long time and they won't get a parade. And how fitting would that be for the Toronto Maple Leafs to finally win a Stanley Cup, 55 years, and I can't even go to the damn parade. I'm wearing my Raptors shirt. I was at that parade last year with 3 million people. And it was the greatest time of my life. And I was only thinking these last 2 months, man, if the NHL comes back and the Leafs happen to win a cup, not only will people think they get an asterisk, but I won't even get to go to the damn parade.
Anyone who wins, they're going to say doesn't count 2020. There's going to be an asterisk. But I literally bring up the Chicago Blackhawks the entire time. I'm like, that team was clearly the best team that year. They had to play their best hockey for half a season. And while we're talking about the Blackhawks, I kind of love that they've missed the playoffs the last few years. So I would prefer if they have a nice quiet exit by the hands of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. So I'm hoping that's a quick first round exit.
Honestly, whoever wins the cup this year, they shouldn't have an asterisk. They should have an exclamation mark, because they have gone through, how many months has it been off? They haven't been able to get on ice. They've only been doing at-home workouts or whatever they can do. If they come
3
back,
extra wins.
Yeah, if they come back and are able to come back together as a team, having missed all those months together, and can beat all of these people and win, that's incredible. Whoever it is, I'm going to be really excited for them. I hate that they're going to miss all the fun stuff, but they really should be awarded 10 times over, because that's incredible for them to do all of that.
No team has ever done this. No team has ever done this. Yeah.
My thing is, I wanted to ask you guys, because I was thinking about it while explaining it to somebody, and there's obviously the first round bye for the round robin teams. And if I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking playing guys, the qualifying around guys. Yeah. I like to think that that's kind of more of an advantage rather than having a bye week. You're getting used to the crowd. You're getting, with the lack of crowd, that is, you're getting used to a whole new environment. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think they still have to kind of figure out if they're going to do a couple warm-up games between the teams, or if they're just going to go by reseeding. For me, Yeah, it's kind of indifferent. Like, I would kind of want to see them maybe play the 3 other teams that were in the top 4 for a reseed just to get their legs going, get you into playoff mode. I mean, if I was a coach or a GM of one of these teams and they said, oh, just play 6-7 games to warm up, I'm not playing my best players. I'll work those guys in practice. If I'm Boston, I'm not throwing Pasternak, Marchand, Bergeron out there for all 6 games for fun. I mean, I'm going to save them for when it counts.
Now, I hear what you guys are saying in terms of the crowds potentially not being there for if these teams do win a championship. I will say this. If the end date is similar to like right around the time that the NBA playoffs have been finishing up, that like September, August period, a lot more stuff is opening up. I don't know about you guys in your respective cities, like when you walk around and see things, but like at least, and I guess Elena and I are both in the same city. I was just in downtown Austin recently, and crowds of people, obviously for other stuff going on currently in America, but still, you just read around the room and stuff is kind of going. We've seen a lot of these like drive-by, like graduations, drive-by birthday parties and stuff like that. That's basically what a parade is. It might be a little awkward, with like 6 feet away and everything like that. And, the social norms certainly have changed given COVID, but I still think that they can still have that moment relatively. I would hope they're not drinking out of the same cup, or at least give it a wipe down, like when you're at church or something and the priest wipes down the, the wine. That would probably be.
That's not sanitary, Juju. Yeah. You know it every time you go up and.
As gross as it sounds, that's a part of the tradition. You always see those really great photos of, whomever lifting it up and they're drinking out of it. It does sound gross now that we are very health conscious and germ conscious, but it's a part of it. And hell, I would love to drink from it one day. And, yeah.
Hey, we've all been to college here. We're drinking from same cups and everything. If you ever played around a King's Cup, you know what I'm talking about here. I don't know. I still think that there's an opportunity out there. It's interesting you mentioned that. I feel as though we're going to have an entire generation of germaphobes like coming off of this. Like literally, if you're a kid like growing up, a mask is just a thing. It's just a normal thing to put on a mask before you like leave the house now. I
wish I could have 3 months off of school and not having no idea what's going on.
Right.
Speaking about parades, sorry, Juju, I got to bring my Maple Leaf bias back in. But if the Leafs were to win a cup, and I know in Ontario and Canada, the rules are a little bit more stricter right now than how certain spots in the U.S. are, but all bets are off the table. If the Leafs win the cup, no one is listening to the rules. No one is going to be sanitary. Everyone will want to drink from the cup. It will be a disaster, and I love it.
I should ask you here. So, like the last time, so you did rankings for us for the website, as I mentioned earlier. So your last rankings update happened on March 17th. So, we're officially 3 months past that. Your top 10 was as such, and let me just read it off. So at 10, you had Edmonton, 9 Dallas, 8 Pittsburgh, 7 the Golden Knights, 6 Philly, 5 the Capitals, 4 Avalanche, 3 Lightning, 2 the Blues, and number 1 you had the Bruins. So you did technically have that matchup of the Bruins and Blues there. So you're completely on the Avalanche bandwagon now, or
Yeah. Oh yeah. All Avs all the way. When I finished playing organized hockey here, I played a little bit of high school hockey towards the end, and our school colors were the Colorado Avalanche colors. So that's kind of my little affiliation for them. So go Avs, go. Not to mention Cale Makar, stud Canadian defenseman. So that's my boy.
I see it in a few years, but I don't think I see it this year. But I definitely want to see it in the next few years.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, cash in on that cup while you got McKinnon on that contract, though.
Absolutely. No one talks about that.
All righty, guys. Well, I think it is time to move on to our next subject of discussion here. So sounds like everyone's on board with these relaunch plans, like a lot of shifting opinions to now pretty much positive in that regard. So let's bring it on to Mr. Max Kellerman and his take regarding organized hockey.
Listen, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but in the United States of America, no one really cares about hockey. The old joke is every town has 20,000 hockey fans. They all have season tickets. So the arenas are always sold out, but the TV ratings don't do anything. So it's not one of the 4 major team sports, although it has a strong, I don't know how else to describe it, cult following in this country. Obviously in Canada, it's number 1. But this is where the money is.
I've never heard that joke before, Max.
Have you been to Sunrise, Florida? I don't think there's 20,000 people there.
I disagree with him on the forefront here, guys, as well. I just grew up in hockey. The NHL certainly was always respected as like a top 4 sport overall. Pretty much the hierarchy here is NFL. NBA, MLB have kind of like switched spots over the years. And then NHL has kind of been in that 4 hole. it's pretty much been consistently number 4. You would hope, obviously you guys as big hockey fans to try and elevate its status in America, but it is what it is. Maybe, who knows, if baseball decides to hold out an entire 2020, that might be a possibility. But Annie, I want you to take the ball and roll with this one. What do you think of Max's take?
It's hard to take anything that man says seriously outside of boxing and MMA. I mean, the guy has had awful I mean, this is the guy that said Larry Fitzgerald is not a Hall of Famer. That Kawhi is more clutch than Kobe. Sorry. Kobe is my guy. I will defend him till my dying day. But as far as this take goes, for one, growing up in Southern California, I have heard this time and time again about my own fan base, that no one cares about hockey in California, which could not be further from the truth. I mean, you go and I'll defend my crosstown rivals, the Los Angeles Kings, as well. You go to any Ducks or Kings game and they know their hockey. They're not just showing up and, not knowing the rules or anything. They're knowledgeable about the entire league too. Max has to say these things for ratings. I understand. Stephen A's got his point, and then Max usually takes the dumb one. I know how that works. But what would be number 4 is my question. If hockey's not in the top 4, MLS? No. Golf? No.
Bring it back down there. Bring it back down there.
I'm trying. I can't.
Keep going.
He aggravates me in so many ways.
Gio, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's kind of like what Annie said. I mean, what would the 4th major sport be? I mean, if we really want to talk about the National Hockey League and the original 6, there's only 2 Canadian teams. You had Chicago, you had Detroit, you had New York, and you had Boston. I mean, so you had 4 teams in the United States already there. Massachusetts, massive hockey state. Minnesota, massive hockey state. Annie, you mentioned California. A couple episodes ago, we on FaceOff, we talked to Patrick O'Brien Dempsey, who played Mike Eruzione in the movie Miracle. He lives in California now.
That's a shameless plug, guys.
Yeah, shameless plug. We asked him about the state of hockey in California, and he's closer to Los Angeles, so he goes to a lot of Kings games, and he says, when the team's doing well, the team's winning, they love it. And we even brought up how Wayne Gretzky was traded, not specifically, but there was a major reason he got traded to Los Angeles was to boost hockey in California. And I kind of want to attribute that to my boy Austin Matthews. If it wasn't for hockey growing in the U.S., the Toronto Maple Leafs here in Canada, their poster boy is an American hockey player. So I don't really understand. I mean, I think it was the Winter Classic. It was Dallas, Nashville. Don't hold me to this, but it's the Cotton Bowl is down there.
At the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, so that's what I had it. 70,000 fans sold out.
83,000.
83, even better. That's Dallas and Nashville, 2 places where people probably would think that's not the biggest hockey market. And you always look at Nashville's playoff run a couple years ago. Massive turnout. Dallas Stars, they were awesome in the late 90s, early 2000s. They had Mike Modano, one of the best American-born players ever, played for Dallas. So yeah, like Max, maybe you took a couple shots to the head when you were sparring for boxing or something, but it's easily in the top 4 major sports. MLS, they've been around a long time, but soccer, it's not that big here in Canada and the United States. I mean, come on, Max, get your head out of the gutter. The NHL, they're doing their best. We brought up on our show again today, the Bruins Blues Game 7 Stanley Cup Final had the highest ratings in television in the last decade for a Stanley Cup game or a hockey game. So I'm going to say it again, Max, get your head out of the gutter.
Yeah, and Gio, sorry for correcting you on that number. I got to go to the Winter Classic this year, which was amazing.
Awesome.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah, we were kind of talking before we started recording. I don't watch any other sports besides hockey, and I know a little bit about college football. So I don't know Max like y'all know Max. I don't like him, so I guess I'm a part of the club.
I'm not missing anything.
Yeah. Well, and he specifically said team sport, and that's what totally threw me off was what other. And yeah, we mentioned soccer, but I know one person out of everyone I know in my life that watches soccer regularly. No one else except for the when the World Cup comes around or the Olympics. Knowing hockey fans, and I love that we're talking about California. I went to San Jose and Anaheim in a weekend at the beginning of the season, and some of the most passionate and committed fans I have ever scene. And Vegas too, which you wouldn't think of as a hockey market. Sure, tourism, but not hockey. And that's hometown people. It's just our community is so passionate. It's so excited. And hockey, it's, these players don't just walk onto a rink one day and they're a hockey player like some football or basketball people might be. They don't pick it up until high school or something. These guys dedicate most of their lives to it. That takes a lot out of your life. That takes a lot of passion and strength. And we as fans have that too. So I don't know where he's getting that we're not top 4, in the top 4 in the United States, especially Gio made another good point. The original 6, 4 of them were in the United States. We have, how many Canada teams are there compared to American teams?
7.
Thank you. And another one coming to America next year.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. And y'all, he is there to create an argument or create a conversation. He just really, yeah. And we could also go into another conversation how the NHL should be better with their marketing. I feel like if they were better at marketing themselves and teams marketed themselves better, there would be bigger turnouts or better TV ratings. Also, I don't have TV. I buy the NHL package and that's it. So that might have something to do with it too, how cable TV is out and apps and streaming services are in. So
yeah, so Max doesn't even see a rating, so he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think what really definitely dug him into the hole right there was, like you said, when he mentioned team. We had this debate like when Dana first announced Fight Island and what was going to happen there. Well, UFC is in this unique position where it can elevate itself in terms of the sports hierarchy, but that's an individual sport, individual combat sport. And it's hard to equate kind of like a natural television rating to how the NHL structures it and everything, pay-per-view buys versus like stuff that's free on TV, other than, of course, if you have the NHL package. The only other thing I could think of, and this is like if we're going away from professional sports, I believe there's still obviously an amateur element to this one, is if he was to say like college football. If he was to defend this take, which I don't think he will, he could say in theory like a college football, maybe a top 4 sport in America as opposed to hockey, just because football here is just, it's the top dog, like regardless of who's playing. My thing on college football would be it's very regional. SEC has dominated for years there. Pretty much we're so used to Alabama against Clemson at this point that it's just like a expected event. It's like Christmas seeing Alabama versus Clemson in early January. So that's one of the biggest problems that's facing college football. In terms of hockey, it's interesting how many unique markets have come out of the woodwork over the last few years to compete for that cup. Vegas was just in the Stanley Cup Finals a couple years ago. St. Louis just took home, I believe, their first in franchise history, if I'm not mistaken?
It was their first cup, but it's their 4th Stanley Cup Finals appearance. They lost 3 in a row back in the early 70s when they first started.
Yeah, so a ton of markets have really come out. Los Angeles was just in the finals a few years back as well. Annie's Ducks in the mid-2000s. Obviously, Crosby, the Penguins have been kind of around that finals mixed the last few. And then who knows? Maybe the Maple Leafs can actually turn some heads this year. But
yeah, well, Elena brought it up. I mean, there's only 7 teams here in Canada, but the Cup hasn't been in Canada since 1993.
Exactly.
So an American team has won it. It's stayed south of the border. And me and my co-host, we get into this all the time about seeing a Canadian team win the Stanley Cup and all that. But it goes by the city, and we're just outnumbered. It's a fact. So
something that you mentioned, like in your first kind of like when we're talking about the previous subject, was you played high school like hockey. That was just a part of like sponsored public school sports when you were coming up. And I do think that's probably like one of the biggest like gaps between, Americans and the sport of hockey, because we don't necessarily have it. I'm sure some markets may have like public school sponsored hockey, but at least growing up in New Mexico myself, I never saw it. I am not familiar with any schools that have their own hockey program for their like high school. So I think that's probably maybe like one of those other things why hockey hasn't been necessarily ingratiated to an American audience in quite the same way, particularly at the youth level. And I don't really know what could really bridge that, because I think one conversation we had with the CAC when he was on there, it is kind of a expensive sport to get into. Not everyone could just do it, because just to get an hour of time on the ice is very costly in itself.
Oh yeah.
Annie, you did youth hockey, if I'm not mistaken, as well, correct?
I did.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys could share your experiences, like the type of money that like went into that between you, Gio, doing in Canada, where you were playing for a public school, versus Annie, where you had to actually go out of your way to pursue it.
I will say you're bringing it up, talking about high school hockey, and my youngest brother actually just graduated from high school playing high school hockey in Southern California. And a big part, absolutely. Speaking of COVID, actually, he graduated in the Petco Park parking lot and everyone was in cars.
Wow.
So if we're thinking about a parade, there could be like a possibility of like a rally or something. But anyway, and I just have to give a shout out for one, the Ducks have done an impeccable job growing the game in Southern California. They built rinks all the way from San Diego up to the very tip of Orange County just before it gets into Kings territory. I think in San Diego, they just rebuilt one kind of out west, but I believe there's around 4 or 5 accredited Ducks hockey rinks just in San Diego County by itself. So, the Ducks are obviously putting a lot of money. They know that to grow the game, you got to start at the youth level. And going actually east to Pittsburgh, because I did an internship with youth and amateur hockey for the Penguins. Sidney Crosby is a huge face as far as growing the game in Allegheny County. He actually has a program called Little Penguins where he buys equipment for kids ages 7 through 9. And this is full on just free. We're talking helmet, pads, stick, skates, everything. As far as, players getting involved and teams getting involved, it's so crucial. Because like you said, it's not a cheap sport to do. It's why of me and my 4 brothers, the only guy that was able to play goalie was the youngest, specifically because of the cost and the amount of, obviously the pads, the sticks. I mean, everything goes into it. Plus when you start doing travel, ice time, there's 3 practices a week you have to pay for ice for. It adds up. So you are spot on there. You do have to start at the youth level as far as growing the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just jump in here. I'll give my perspective being in Canada. So I played youth hockey, minor hockey, what they call here, since I was 6. I played at the AAA level. So I'm not sure how it works in the United States, but that would technically be the highest level of minor hockey you can get here. So I did that all the way from the age of 6, 7 to my draft year for the Ontario or the Canadian Junior Hockey League when that was up until 16, 17. Every year, if you're playing AAA hockey here in Canada, no matter where you're from in Canada, you're looking at a team budget anywhere from 4,000 to 5,000 Canadian. So a little bit less for in American dollars, but that doesn't even cover travel costs. So the furthest we had to go from where I'm located would be like an hour drive. You'd have to play on a weekday at 8 o'clock at night. And then you got to go to school the next day. You're playing 2 games a week, maybe 3. You're on the ice 6 out of the 7 days a week. Like you said, equipment. Because I was on the ice 5 or 6, 7 days a week, I needed the best pair of skates. I was willing, or my parents were willing to, and I'm very thankful, were willing to spend the $600-700 for new skates every year because you needed that. You're playing all the time. And then they're paying for gas. They're paying for hotels for tournaments. There were some rinks here in Canada where you got to have to pay a little bit extra, where it's not part of the town or the city. It doesn't come with the budget in the beginning. So it's that. So you're looking $8,000-9,000 Canadian every year to play organized hockey. And there's so much politics involved with parents. They take it so seriously here. And it's like how it has to be done in the US. It starts at the grassroots level. If you can get programs in, and just like you mentioned with Sidney Crosby out in California, that kind of stuff, that's where it starts. You get kids involved young. You hopefully can get them hooked. But man, it's quickly turned into one of the most expensive sports to play, strictly just equipment wise. If you want to be good and have a chance, you got to play 24/7. You got to play in the summer. In the US, it might be harder to find ice time in the summer. Here in Canada, there are programs going constantly. It really starts at the grassroots system, but I was in it for 15 years. I went to camps for junior hockey and stuff like that. And man, they must take it seriously like they take football and stuff with the high school. I've always been jealous being a Canadian. When I was in high school and I used to see American schools with their football and they get 10,000, they got these stadiums. I'm like, man, why can't we be that passionate about anything? The most we had for high school hockey games was maybe 100, 200 guys in the stands. And that's pretty cool, but I want a full stadium.
You want that Friday Night Lights, Dillon, Texas type vibe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, it's a grassroots thing, man. It starts when you're little and it comes all the way through. And Austin Matthews, I've heard him say here in Toronto, his uncle had season tickets to the Phoenix Coyotes and he used to take them all the time. And just by him watching, that's how he got involved in the game. So it's little things like that.
You got to get him a hook, but teach him not to get in trouble for hooking.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can't even touch the guy in the NHL anymore now. So
this is true,
especially not with COVID-19.
Yeah,
6 feet apart, guys. 6 feet apart.
This is a message brought to you by the Foundation for a Perfect Package.
Why do I need Manscaped?
Why do I need Manscaped? Why do I need Manscaped?
Because the only frill I want is the one up top.
Because being in a relationship is not an excuse to be lazy.
Because I like talking ball, not smelling like them.
Because deforestation is proven to prevent forest fires.
Manscaped is the only brand dedicated to below-the-waist grooming.
Manscaped's Crop Preserver guarantees that you smell your best all day long.
Manscaped Boxer Briefs are the most comfortable underwear on the market.
Manscaped's advanced skincare technology makes nicks a thing of the past.
Manscaped is the #1 in men's grooming. Subscribers get 2 free blade refills every 3 months. Get 20% off plus free shipping and handling with the promo code SLUMP at manscaped.com. That's the promo code SLUMP at manscaped.com. Get your Lawnmower 3.0 today.
We are the Slumpbusters.
And we approve this message.
Alrighty, well, I think that is the perfect transition into our next segment, guys. So we're going to test some knowledge here. We're going to drop this, hopefully not to be copyrighted music here, as we are playing NHL Jeopardy here on the Slumpbuster podcast. So, like I said, our contestants, Gio, Elena, Annie, it is time to see who is the hockey expert of hockey experts among this show.
I'm nervous.
I'm terrified.
We should all be nervous.
Wait,
Alrighty,
Juju,
got to turn that off.
explain again. We're chatting in.
Yes. So in lieu of buzzards, we do have the technology. We do have Instagram group chat here. So basically, going to drop in there. Whoever can basically reply to me first, you win the buzzer, and you have the opportunity to be first on the board. Okay, so the categories we have on the board are going to be the Maple Leafs, the Penguins, the Ducks, the NHL, and Mr. Wayne Gretzky, the one name you should know if you are not a hockey expert, and I failed on miserably in this case. But
Hold
anyway.
on,
Wayne Gretzky.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So we know that Juju knows Wayne Gretzky. Juju, can you name 3 other current hockey players?
Ooh.
Okay. Alex Ovechkin, Sidney Crosby, and who else?
You know, come on. You can name one.
You can do it.
You name the 2 easiest.
Yeah.
Sure.
Pretty much. Let me just, analyze my text with Gio here.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I thought it would be fun.
Oh, yeah, you definitely did.
2 out of
but
3 is good.
Yeah.
I'll take
Austin
it.
Matthews.
67. There we go. 67%. D's get degrees, guys. Don't care what anyone tells you. Just bare minimum to get through. That was how I got through college. Anyway, first to reply to my message gets priority as far as who's on the clock.
Got it.
All righty. Well, Annie, it is your turn on the board. You get to choose. Which of these categories are we jumping into first?
I'm going to take Ducks for 200.
Ducks for 200. The all-time leader in goals for the Ducks is...
Who is Teemu Selanne?
The answer is... Teemu Selanne. There you go. So Annie, for 200, is on the board. All righty. Elena, you are on the clock. Which category?
I hope I don't embarrass myself. Penguins for 100.
The Penguins at one point had a live penguin as their mascot. What was his name?
Who is Pete?
The answer is Pete.
Wow.
Can I tell a fun story for 1 second?
Absolutely. Go for it.
Okay. I think I told this story to Annie on her podcast. I'm married currently, but I've only had one guy that I've dated who's been a Penguins fan, or not a Penguins fan, a hockey fan. His name was Pete. So every time I think of Pete the Penguin, I think of Pete, my ex-boyfriend.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Long live Pete.
Yes. Hope you're doing okay, Pete.
Wherever you are.
Yeah. I think he's in Atlanta somewhere.
All right. Does that mean I'm up next, Juju?
Gio, you are on the clock.
All right. Give me my Maple Leafs for 200.
200. The Leafs have cup wins over all original 6 teams except this team.
Who is the Montreal Canadiens?
All righty. Show me the Boston Bruins.
Wow.
Okay. in the hole currently after one round of play.
I would have said the Habs too.
We have
Shit.
Annie at 200, Alana at 100, and Gio at -200. The pressure
Representing
is
Canada
on.
well. Let's go.
The pressure is on. Annie, you are back on the clock. What are we going with?
NHL for 100.
The first reported hockey game took place in this Canadian city.
Oh, reported hockey game. Where is Toronto?
The answer is Montreal. Back to 0. Or actually, no, back to 1.
You took.
Don't take away my point.
Don't do that. Don't do
My bad.
That
My
ain't
bad
cool.
there.
Don't take it away.
Gio.
All right. Let's go Wayne Gretzky for 100.
Wayne Gretzky for 100. Gretzky played for this team prior to debuting in the NHL.
Nice. You spelled it right there.
Yeah, you did. Now, I feel like this might be a bit of a trick question. Okay.
To be honest, like I wasn't sure how to measure like the difficulty on these questions. So some of them may be harder than others, even at the 100, 500 marks.
Oh God.
Well,
Heads up here. My bad.
I'm gonna save myself here because I'm gonna say who is the Edmonton Oilers, because the Edmonton Oilers were a part of the WHA before they came into the NHL. So that is the most current team I could think of him before that. So I'm gonna say the Edmonton Oilers.
Okay. The answer is
I
Indianapolis
actually-
Racers.
Shit.
Let's see. Next up, Elena, you are back. Let's see here. What category are we going with, Elena?
Let's just keep going. Penguins for 200.
The Pens were the last team to feature a goalie without a mask. What was that goalie's name?
This is the wrong answer, but I'm just going to say it because I remember him being in a goalie mask. Who is Jim Rutherford?
Andy Brown.
Dang.
Good guess. I would have said Jim Rutherford, actually.
Yeah.
Next round. Annie, you are on the clock.
Ducks for 100.
In the 1992 movie, The Mighty Ducks, name the main protagonist.
Define protagonist for me, please.
So not the leading role. So not the actor. The name of the character.
Gordon Bombay.
Gordon Bombay it is.
It's not Adam Banks.
Not Adam Banks.
No.
All right.
This isn't even the fourth name character.
Annie is on a roll, currently the only one in the positive with a 200-point lead. Gio, you're up to bat.
All right, I'm going to swing big here. I need to get back to even. I'm going with the Maple Leafs for 300.
Maple Leafs for 300. From 1919 to 1926, the Leafs played under this team name.
Oh, shit. I know two of them. Now it's just about picking the right one. My gut is telling me to go with who is the Toronto Arenas.
The same.
Like I already put him in the negative.
It was literally the other choice. Keep going. Let's go, baby. I mean the negative.
All right.
You put him in the negative before he even said.
Yeah, how dare you?
You got to swing on those 500s now. Okay. Elena, your time in the sun.
NHL for 200, please.
This franchise has the most Stanley Cup wins in its history.
Who is the Montreal Canadiens?
The Montreal Canadiens. Ding, ding, ding.
Yay!
Can I get bonus points if I tell you how many they've won?
Sorry, that's
I
not the
say
rules
yes.
of the game.
24.
Annie, you are back up. What are we going with?
Ducks for 300.
Gretzky.
Ducks for 300.
Oh, you said, the back.
I said ducks for 300.
Ducks for 300.
What's the answer to that question, guys?
I know the answer.
Who led the Anaheim Mighty Ducks in the 1993 to 1997 season as the franchise's first head coach?
Oh, fuck. Fuck, I know who this is. Fuck. I'm sorry I'm cursing on your podcast.
It's fine. Fuck, shit.
Blurp it out.
I don't know. Whatever.
My mom's going to kill me. She listens to me.
Your mom's the best, Annie.
You know, your standards when your podcast name is the Slumpbuster aren't really that high, to be honest.
That's fair. That's fair. Nah. I don't know who it is.
Are you going to pass? Can
I'm
someone?
not going to pass.
Because
No,
I was
I'll
going
pass.
to say, technically someone could still if you pass.
Don't know.
Should I give it a countdown? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Gordon Bombay.
I was about to say something.
Mr. Ron Wilson.
Wow, Ronnie.
All righty. So
I knew
let's
that
see.
too.
Let's see what we
My
got
dad's gonna
next
rip
going
me
on
apart
here.
for that one.
Elena.
Let's go back to the Penguins for 300.
Penguins for 300. Which Penguin won back-to-back Conn Smythe trophies as playoff MVP in 1991 and 1992?
Who is Mario Lemieux?
Say that again, Juju. What word was that?
Yeah. I did.
I read it. I wasn't listening to what he said.
Mario Lemieux. That is correct. Okay, a commanding lead is being established right now, guys. Will the momentum continue? Gio, you are next up.
All right. I'm going to take a chance at that question that you previously previewed. So I think that was Wayne Gretzky for 300.
Gretzky is a minority owner of this Canadian Football League franchise.
Now, I don't know if he still is, but I guess you worded it as he still is. But I'm going to say who is the Toronto Argonauts?
That is correct.
Hey, the kid is on the board. Kind of.
Okay.
Good job.
Annie, you are up.
Keep going. Ducks for 400.
Ducks for 400. Oh, gosh darn it.
I'll take that one. Actually, give me that one. I'll take that one. I'll take that one.
Okay, Gretzky for 400 then.
How is that for 400?
This is a trick question. That's not actually his name.
Gretzky's nickname is
Gretzky with a Z is who is the great one?
Who is the
I
great?
mean, that should have been worth 100.
That's the one.
That should have been a
but I'll take
25
the
point.
400
Okay.
points anyway.
Guys, it was a lot of work to get this together. A lot of research on my part. More hockey research than I've done in the majority of my lifetime. So bear with me. I'm trying. All right. Elena, you are up.
Penguins for 400, please.
Penguins.
I hope it's what Sidney Crosby's nickname is.
What year did the Penguins enter the NHL?
What is 1967?
1967.
Well
All
done.
righty. Elena at
Thank
800.
you. This is so exciting. Oh, I
Okay.
closed out Instagram. Damn it.
Gio just taking advantage of the system here because he is on the clock.
Maple Leafs for 500.
Okay, chance to get back in the positive here. In 1997, the Leafs named this player the first ever European team captain.
Who is Boreas Salming? No. Oh, shit. Fuck.
Who is Matt Sundin?
You spelled his name wrong. It doesn't count.
Okay.
I should have paid more attention to the year. I'm not representing myself here very well.
You're doing a good job.
That's a shame.
I'm giving side tidbits, that's extra.
Okay, and Elena, you are back up.
Okay, you guys, let's try it. Penguins for 500.
Prior to the Penguins' arrival, name Pittsburgh's original hockey team.
I believe it's what is the Pittsburgh Hornets?
The answer is the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Wow, a little baseball.
Really?
But yeah, in 1919, the hockey team in Pittsburgh was the Pittsburgh Pirates.
I think the Hornets were like the 20s or something, or the 30s.
Yeah, it's funny if you actually kind of like look around, like you'll see that a lot of like sports franchises are consistently like swapping basically who's named what.
Yeah.
Like they're all the general theme, but they all kind of use each other's names at some point. Let's see here. All right, Gio, you are back up. What are we going with?
Let's go. I got to swing big here. Let's go Wayne Gretzky for 500.
Wayne Gretzky for 500. Gretzky can lay claim to the most records in NHL history. How many does he hold?
Ooh, okay. I'm not going to lie. I don't know the exact number. I think I know the ballpark. I'm going to go shit. Now I got myself in a hole because I don't even really know. I'm going to say what is 85.
Okay, survey says. What is 61?
I don't know why 85. This is
I thought 21, so you did great.
The CAC is just internally screaming.
Oh man, he is gonna rip my head off.
When he came on this show, he was just dropping mad trivia, mad knowledge on us.
Oh yeah. We do trivia all the time, so I'm just completely embarrassed for myself right now.
Elena, a chance to make up those points there.
Fingers crossed.
What are we going with?
NHL
Wait,
300.
I did first. What the fuck?
Girl, do you see how many penguins I got in this chat?
I said to his first, though. What?
I have a penguin before the eyes here.
You know what? I'm a good sport. My friend Annie can go.
No.
No, you go. You go.
It's fine. No. Don't make it out like that. No.
She's like, well, technically you guys are tied right now. So, okay.
You go.
Elena, Annie's giving
NHL 300.
NHL for 300. What year was the NHL founded?
I think it was Annie's turn. Yeah, Annie clocked in before I did. So, yeah, I think this is her turn.
Sorry. record of the podcast. We have it all.
We just celebrated 100 years not too long ago.
Yes, that's true. What is 1917?
The answer
Nice
is
That's it.
1917.
I got it.
Thank you, Annie.
I got
Three-
you. See?
300-point
Are we
lead.
good now?
We good. You go ahead, girl. I won't even put my penguin in the chat.
It is officially Annie on this go round. Annie, what are we going with?
We're going Ducks for 400.
Ducks for 400. The Ducks dropped the mighty in their name in what year?
Let's see. 2007, they won the Cup as the Anaheim Ducks. Getzlaf and Perry's rookie year was 2006. They were still the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, so 2006.
The answer is 2006.
Give me my points back.
Hey, I gave you your points. I got you. The current
Good
scoreboard
job.
currently is, and Gio, I'm not doing this to throw you under the bus, but
Hey, do it.
700 for Annie, 600 for Elena, and Gio sitting at negative 1,300.
I'm swinging big.
You're doing great,
Yeah.
Gio.
You got to be the Barry Bonds of this chat. Let's go. Let's.
Everyone's firing here.
Yeah, I was about to say, I wish people could see this chat right now.
It's just spamming. I have a list of just emojis dropping everywhere, but I did see Annie directly under my last one. So, Annie, you're on the clock again.
Let's see. Wayne Gretzky for 200.
Wayne Gretzky for 200. This franchise acquired Gretzky in the 1988 season. We already gave it away earlier in the show, but
Yeah. Who is the Los Angeles Kings?
Los Angeles Kings. Okay. So
Good job.
Annie at 900 and Elena back up to bat.
NHL 400?
The first official commissioner of the NHL is
I mean, he's been the commissioner for so long. Who is Gary Bettman?
Gary Bettman.
There you-
Boom.
Oh, yeah, because they changed over. Yep. Got you. I got it right, you guys.
It's kind of meant as a little bit of a trick question there from
Yeah.
what I was reading. So had to throw in a couple of those curveballs.
That's so exciting. I thought it was the wrong answer.
My
Gio?
emojis aren't sending anymore. I don't know what's going on here.
Gio, you have a chance to get back in the positive here.
Let's go Maple Leafs for 400.
Maple Leafs for 400. George Armstrong played his entire career with the Maple Leafs. What was this Hall of Famer's nickname?
Oh, it's funny because when I did my internship at the Hockey News magazine, I had to write a sidebar about George Armstrong, and this is totally going to a blank. I'm going to throw something out there, and I'm going to say, who is Butch Armstrong?
His nickname was the Chief.
That's
it seems it's a 2-horse race here. So let's see. Looks like Elena, you have an opportunity to expand your lead on Annie here.
I don't know anything about the Leafs or the Ducks, so let's go NHL 500.
The Buffalo Sabres once drafted a non-existent player due to frustrations in the 1974 draft. What was the name they submitted? It kind of blows my mind that a team would do this too, by the way. Just throwing it out there.
I hadn't heard this story, but it sounds interesting. Who is John Doe?
The name was a Japanese player by the name of Taro Sugimoto.
Cool.
Interesting.
You learn something new every day, kiddos.
Just the thought process that went behind this, though. Like I said, to submit a non-existent player. What if they drafted some guy and there is a guy with that legit name? And he's like, holy shit, I got to play some hockey?
I think that's a joke on The Simpsons, too.
Yeah.
That sounds like something they would do.
We only have 2 categories left here. And it looks like Elena got in the last message here. So you're back up.
Maple Leafs for 100?
Yeah, let me steal.
The Leafs last won the Stanley Cup in 1967. Who did they beat?
I'm going to pass because I don't know.
Pass?
And I want Gio to have it. Go get your 100 points, friend.
I mean, I'm almost positive. Who is the Detroit Red Wings? God damn it.
The Montreal Canadiens. Okay.
Yikes.
Looks like Annie got in the message. Annie,
Let's
go for
see,
it.
Ducks for 500. What do we got?
Who scored the Ducks' first goal in their franchise's only Stanley Cup win?
Like the game or the
what? You gotta reword that, man.
Okay, so who scored the first goal in the finals of the Ducks' first and only franchise is Stanley Cup win?
So the last game, the first goal, or the first goal, game 1?
The first goal, game 1 for the Ducks.
Ooh, I gotta think back to game 1 here.
If Annie can do this, she's the ultimate hockey fan because I could not do that for my team.
No. I know that roster like the back of my hand. I'm just trying to think.
You can do it.
Not headline.
I mean, I suppose technically, too, if you got this wrong, then Elena has a chance to win as well from the negative.
Oof.
A lot of pressure in here.
This is going to be shot in the dark, but I'm going to go with it anyway. Who is Scott Niedermeyer?
The answer is Andy McDonald.
Never would have got that.
No.
All righty, so recap. Elena, the champion, the winner, the undisputed name in hockey knowledge at 500 points. Annie at 400. And then, Gio, we love you, man.
Yeah, it's all good, man. I'll come back. I'll redeem myself one day.
Yeah, we'll be back.
We'll be back. Hopefully by the time we do have all y'all back, like we actually have some games currently taking place. That would be the ideal situation for it.
Yeah.
Let's stop this screen share, get back into the show. So once again, bottom of my heart, thank you all for coming on. Thank you for being a part of this podcast, the Hockey Roundtable of the Slumpbuster, represented right here. Annie, last time you were on here, favorite sports movie, you named Rocky. Gio, I'm pretty sure you're going to say Miracle if I ask you. Elena,
it's up there.
A Canadian?
Your favorite all-time
like
sports
a
movie?
Miracle. Okay.
Mine's Remember the Titans.
Remember the Titans. Okay, so that's another one for us for Remember the Titans. Gio, so it's not Miracle?
I got somewhat of a connection with Miracle. Yeah, like you said, a Canadian, loving the movie Miracle. I used to watch that as my pump up before I went to play games, and it just got me stoked. And the fact that I talked to the actor Patrick O'Brien Dempsey, who played Mike Ruziano, he's one of the coolest things ever.
That's so cool.
But I'm gonna kind of throw one off the board here. I love Coach Carter. Is one of my favorite sports movies, and I don't know if you guys ever seen it. It's a golf movie, so it's a bit of a niche market. The Greatest Game Ever Played with Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf, yes.
Yeah,
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
I love that movie, and honestly, it's one of the only sports movies where I actually still cry at it towards the end. So,
I mean, my favorite hockey movie is, of course, Happy Gilmore, but no, I'm kidding.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a hockey movie.
My mom made that joke.
It's not a hockey movie.
Annie, real quick, rank. Because last time you were on the show, we said we could rank these Rocky movies.
Ooh.
Rank them for me, real quick.
Rank the Rocky movies? Easy. Right. Literally. We're going... Actually, my dad is going to kill me for saying this. We disagree about this all the time. But are we going from top to bottom, or?
Let's go from worst, because I'm pretty sure we all agree on what was the worst.
Rocky Balboa was my least favorite, for sure.
Over 5? Okay. I guess I was mistaken. Rocky 5 was terrible.
Oh, actually, okay. I'll give it, Rocky 5. That was bad. But I don't love the Creed movies. Do those count?
Let's stick with just Rocky, just for the purposes of this.
All right. I'm going Rocky Balboa, bottom. Don't like it. Then I'll go Rocky 5. My dad's going to hate me, but Rocky 3, then next. I love Mr. T, but let's see.
Yeah, 4, 2, and 1.
I know. 4 and 2 are usually tied for me because I can't pick between the both. Oh, my dad's going to kill me. But I got to go Rocky 2 and then Rocky 4.
That's more of a statement on how much you love America right there, honestly.
Absolutely. I mean, that training scene in Siberia. Tell me you don't hear Hearts on Fire and you just get going. You're on a treadmill hearing Hearts on Fire and it's guns a-blazing. And there's nothing better than the first original Rocky movie.
Okay. I mean, hey, that's fair. I mean, the Academy agrees. They gave that one Best Picture. So, pretty set in stone.
I have to throw, after we left the show, actually, I was thinking about another movie that I didn't bring up. And my dad actually listened to that episode. He was like, I thought I raised you better. What the hell was that? I got to give Rudy.
Okay.
Yes, Rudy.
I got to throw Rudy in there. My dad's a Notre Dame grad. My grandpa's a Notre Dame grad. So it's just, you cannot watch that movie and not just get emotional and wanting to.
Rudy.
Vince Vaughn walking into the office and I want Rudiger to have my spot.
John Favreau.
Okay, so it's only right that, of course, we do the shameless plugs. Let's start off with Annie here. All the good stuffs of OD on Sports.
OD on Sports is my platform for ranting about everything going on in my head having to do with sports. I like to think I'm pretty funny and entertaining. That's what people tend to say about my show. But you can find me anywhere podcasts are streamed: Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeart, whatever you listen to. You can also find us on Instagram at OD on Sports and my personal Instagram at SweetAnnieOD. And I'm also on Twitter at SweetAnnieOD. Pretty much follow everybody back. So give me a follow. Let's talk sports.
She's more than okay, by the way, guys. Gio, you are up.
Yes. So I'm Gio. at Writer Giovanni on Twitter. You can follow me there. A co-host of the FaceOff Hockey podcast with my co-hosts at the CAC, who's made Slumpbuster appearances before, and at Mike Lasco, Mike_Lasco. He will have to be the third and final appearance from FaceOff to come on the Slumpbuster. You can check us out, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes. We're on almost every platform. Follow us, subscribe there. YouTube channel, FaceOff Hockey Podcast. Episodes out every Wednesday. We had a lot of great interviews. Eris from the Slumpbuster podcast, he made a guest appearance on our show. We interviewed Kyle Grimard. He's from the London Knights, a junior hockey organization here in Canada. And, of course, you could check out our interview with Mike Ruzioni, Patrick O'Brien Dempsey. So, FaceOff Hockey Podcast. Follow and subscribe, guys.
All righty. And from our newest guest, Alana, what can we expect from you moving forward? Obviously, you run a blog, a little bit different from the podcast, but you do also put out like your own video content as well. I know your Instagram page is always popping with like new stuff and new posts every day. So tell the people, educate them.
Yeah, well, I feel like I need to jump in the podcast world because I'm the only one who doesn't have one right now. But I've been a guest on some. I've been a guest on Annie's podcast and a couple others, which is awesome. If you can't tell already, I love to talk. So anywhere I can talk, I'm here for it. Yeah, on all the platforms and stuff, you can find me at The Life of Alana. It started off as like I'm going to be a lifestyle blogger, and that went out the window. So it's all hockey content, but I like to do fun stuff with it. You'll see me baking cupcakes or making funny videos. Like I'm really into TikTok right now. Honestly, whatever makes me happy for the day is what I'm posting. But especially on Twitter, I am talking about hockey stuff like gameplays and what's going on in the league. So anywhere you want to follow me, come hang out. I'm a friend to all, no matter your team. I do like to say that I'm a friend to all fans. So yeah, come hang out with me.
Once again, thank you all. This is Juju Talk Sports telling you guys to find us at Slumpbuster Podcast on IG, at Slumpbuster Pod on Twitter, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, all that good stuff. Check us out. Stay safe, happy, and healthy, and we'll see you on the next episode.
You want me to say that?
Yeah, Slumpbuster on
Okay.
ice.